I don't know if this is gonna work.
I like the way you move. I like the way. I like the way you move.
Have fun with it. What's up? I'm Anthony Polanco, and P if you prefer. Today we're talking about my live looping process, how I use the Launchpad Pro to live loop, make songs, and perform, produce, and all within Ableton Live. So I'm like by no means Ableton expert. I only have been using it for 2-3 years. Before Ableton, I used Logic for 7 years or so. So there's a lot of differences. Ableton is a very linear system. I've had to adapt to not only using Ableton, but also live looping, also producing and songwriting using this like grid style format. Even in the arrangement view, it's very like, grid-like. So I have had some adapting, and it's been fun. I really like it. I've performed like a handful of shows, and they all went really well. It allows me to like set the vibe, and then throw in the hooks and stuff like whenever I feel ready. So it's really cool. But I tend to still make my arrangements very nippy, like pop style. It's been cool to arrange with this. It's easy to throw pop style songs together with the live looping process. So everyone's got their own thing. Okay. Everyone's got their own thing. Everyone's gonna live loop their own way. It's a very like open-ended experience. What I haven't gotten to yet is like using live looping pedals. So everything I do is with my hands. Maybe that's cool, but it's also very limiting. All that being said, I'm ready to get into it. So first we're going to talk about how I have it all set up. I have a monthly project that I run every month. It allows me to songwrite, produce, and perform all within one project. And it allows me to keep track of everything I write and everything I do each month. So if I have special months, like where I just like I'm crazy killing it every time I sit down, then it's full of a bunch of good songs. Last month, all I did was work on one song, and it was because I had a music video that I wanted to do for it, and I wanted to put it out. So I finally produced it and published it. So it's coming out in 7 days. So I felt that it was timely, it was right, it was fitting for me to do a how I do it video. So this is it. This is April, so I'm going to start a new project. Before I do, I just kind of wanted to show you around. Like this was last month's project, the project that birthed on the way. I basically create the song, and then when I'm done, I do like a arrangement run where I just push play on the buttons in order while it's recording to this page. This is the arrangement view, and as you can see, like it looks like how the song would be. If you can see, these are the drums, the guitar, the bass, the vocals, and the guitar. Play it until I can get perfect takes, and then I do it like 3 or 4 times, keep the best takes of each one, and that's how I make my music videos. I feel like it's only fair that I practice it well enough so that I can record the music video and the song at the same time, even if I do it 3 or 4 times. Does that seem fair? I think it seems fair. I want to show you like, hey, look, I can arrange the whole song while I'm sitting down in one go, and also sing at the end, and it can be sick in a short amount of time. That's my goal. And of course, at the end, I still edit everything, all the best takes from all the takes, right? So I want it to sound perfect because it's going into my recordings. It's going to be a published recording. It's going to be on Spotify, iTunes for the rest of the time. So I've got to make it perfect at the end. But the point is, when I make the music video, the performance video, I want you to see this guy's actually doing this. So I do my best to practice well enough that it can happen. It can go down. And as a matter of fact, what happened in this song was I did some things a little bit different in the performances than I originally planned in the song. So I had to go back and redo some of the guitar in specific, the guitar parts. So it's fun. It's really fun to do this. I really recommend, if you're a live looping artist in any way, that you get into like this style of like month to month songwriting, producing, and performing, you know, all in one. And if you don't have a process that's cooler than this, that is. So if you're not familiar with Ableton, these side panels, you can name them. These will launch your patterns all together. So for example, this would be the chorus. This was like one take of the chorus. That's it. That's what it does. And if you add beats per minute, as you can see here, it'll change the beats per minute like as you launch it. So if you're playing a show, you want to line it up a certain way that the beats per minute change or increase during certain sections of your show, you can do that with these sections here, and you launch those with these buttons here on the side of the Launchpad. So it's pretty cool. I got into Ableton and the Launchpad at the same time, but it's not nearly as good outside of Ableton. It goes hand in hand with this program, and even though you can use Ableton with a lot of other things, a lot of other synths and companion synths like this, like the push, for example, the Launchpad itself is designed to be intricately designed to be used with Ableton. So maybe one day I'll get something cooler and I'll move away from Ableton, but right now I really like doing the live looping thing. It all comes back to what kind of music can I play live. I want to play shows, I want to go out there and play, and I don't want to just play acoustic guitar and sing. So what can I do? You know, this is a cool thing that I've been working on for 2 years now. I've put out some 6 songs with this thing already. So on the way is the next one. Let's get into it. Here's what we're going to do. It's May 3rd. Let's collect all and save. That gets all the files from all over the computer, brings them into the Ableton project, creates like a copy of them, that is. Not like moves them, but creates a copy. So when I open this up 6 months from now, no matter where those files are, they are still findable. Now we're going to save a copy. May 2021. It just so happens that sometimes it gets buried underneath another project file. So a lot of months will get stuck underneath like 1 month. It's kind of funny, but now I got to open it up, and this is what I'm working on, something new now. So the only thing that I need to predetermine is the BPM. I use 90 a lot. I think it's time to mix it up. Let's do like 110. Okay, so basically how my projects are set up is like a traditional rock band style arrangement, song arrangement. My throat's getting dry, sorry. Drums, bass, guitar, vocals, synth, right? And that's just because that's kind of the background of songwriting that I come from. But there's a million ways you can go about it. Some people just start with one thing and move their way on. Some people have their drums separated individually, so it's like kick, snare, crash, you know, like so on and so forth. I just have a drum rack inside of one drum strip, one channel. My drums are one channel. And that's because I do live looping and I'm just one guy and I just do all my drums on one thing. If I had 2 synths or a drum synth and another synth and they were both controlling the drums and all this, then I'd have 2 of these probably. 1 for each. And how I would arrange that is with these buses over here. So I use buses on each instrument group. So just so happens that I don't have any, except for guitars, more than one instrument going into these buses. So they're kind of just like this goes into this, and then these go into this. But if I ever did need an extra instrument, then the buses come in super handy, because then I can apply effects from the drum bus to these things, and as I adjust the effects, it blends them all together, because the effects are being applied to each equally because they're in the same group. That happens before they reach the master track. So buses come in handy in that reason, for arranging and for mixing. Sorry, not for arranging, but for mixing. And when you're playing live, you have to do this. You have to have buses, because if you don't, you're just sending one thing to the sound guy, and they can't mix you in the house. All they can do is turn you up and down. So if it's not sounding quite right in the house, they can't adjust like by instrument. So as you give them individual channels, they can mix you individually. Buses are the best way to do that. It's the easiest way to go from like your stuff to the house in an arranged way. You can mix your instruments individually. You can mix your buses to control like the way your instrument groups sound together, and all that can happen before you send it to the house, so they can't manipulate your sound too much, but they can individually mix the volume and the EQ of each thing depending on how it's sounding in the room. So it will sound way better if you do that. That's what I've been doing for my live looping shows, using just my multi-channel interface. It's a Tascam 16:8. It's pretty cheap, and it works great. I've been using it for like 2-3 years now, and I really like it. I take it with me live, and it works great. I bring it back, I plug it right back in, and I'm at home mixing. It's a really neat little mixer, and it fits in my rack, which is just a handmade wooden one, but it's cool. So I like it a lot. I definitely recommend it if you need a budget mixer. You'll probably find the link in this wherever it is. So that's how it's all set up arrangement wise. I just want to give you a quick preview of how I have my buses set up. My drum bus is set up as such. I've got an auto filter. This is usually connected to my keyboard with the roll off knob, so that if I am I can roll it off. It's kind of cool to end a song or bring it in as an intro. So that's what I have the auto filter on the drum bus for. I use a lot of onboard effects, as you'll see, a lot of onboard plugins. Ableton is a product all in itself. It's got its own plugins, and I think they should be used. So I don't use too many third-party plugin effects. I just use them for like synth. I use Massive, and I use like a vocal effect. I'll show you later. Keys, as you can see, my keys bus is very simple, just a compression sidechain to the vocal. So when I'm singing, the keys back off a little. I'll show you.
I like the way you move.
This is the vocal.
I like the way you move.
I don't know if you can tell, but the keys are quieting as the vocal signal is coming in. So that's very helpful, just to keep the mix tight. Guitar, same thing. Sidechain compression to the vocal works the same way. Simple delay and reverb, nothing too extreme, and a simple limiter, just in case, because these are raw organic instruments. There can be anomalies in the signal, so it's good to have a slight limiter. Same thing with the bass. Compression on the bass goes to the drums, and that works well because, let's show you, the low end needs to be tight together as well. This is the kick. So when there's not low end being played, the bass can resound. When the drum kit's playing low end signal, the bass backs off. So it seems pretty fair, right? It's a good way to balance out your low end. So that's what I have on my bass bus. A little saturator. It kind of just warms up the signal, similar to like compression. And then a tube drive. So that just kind of helps beef up the signal. I'm not recording through a bass amp. I'm just recording direct with the bass. So having a tube drive just kind of helps warm everything up. Vocal bus. I've got the Isotope vocal synth, which I really like. I've been playing with it recently, like the last year or so, and I really like it. It's got a lot of cool sounds. You'll notice if you listen to my last few songs, I've used a couple of different vocal effects from Vocal Synth, and I've got a couple in store still. So the onboard reverb, onboard compression, sidechain to nothing, delay, and EQ. This is a slightly more aggressive EQ than I normally use for vocals, but different strokes. You know, every song requires something new. Simple limiter at the end, and this is my wireless in-ears bus. So as you can see, it's assigned to my output number 5. This is the cue. This is where your click tracks go, your metronome, and whatever backing tracks you have. So I have that assigned to number 5. So that goes to, this is my wireless in-ears, and I can perform using this channel strip. And that's how my buses work, individually, one by one. My individual instrument tracks have very little on them, as you can see. I've got EQ and a simple amp modulator for the guitar. Vocals, just a compression, very simple compression. Bass has kind of a lot of stuff on it actually, but I needed a little reverb on it. Simple compression, simple EQ, and the bass amp's not even on. Guitar, simple amp, simple EQ. These are just massive plugins. That's there's a ton of effects, and it's easy to manipulate effects. The drum track just has a drum bus, which is like a compression, and then inside of the drum kit, I've got a compressor and a reverb. Beside that, it's all very simple. I get my samples mostly from Splice these days. Splice is like a sample library. You pay $7, you get access to a whole bunch of stuff. So I use that because I can get samples from different styles of music on the fly, and allows me to change my style quickly. I used to spend a lot of time creating samples, and since I found Splice, I've done very little of that. I just try to manipulate them as much as possible inside of Ableton and then run with them. See, this one I haven't not done hardly anything, just roll off a little. That's how I'm doing my samples right now. Definitely recommend it if you don't already have something going on. The Launchpad is plugged in via USB straight into the computer, and this is how I have the Launchpad set up. So I've got mono outputs. This is going out to my wireless in-ear monitors, which I use sometimes, like especially if I'm making music videos or if I'm performing live. That goes to number 5. And this is my my monitors. That's what that is. So 9 and 10 are guitar and bass. 1 is vocals, and my Launchpad and the launch key, when I use it, it's a keyboard, are set up like this. So this allows me, sorry, I had this open. This is just how every YouTube tutorial says to set up the Launchpad. So this is how I've had it set up, and it works good. Just set it up like this if you have a Launchpad. I'm sure it works the same with the Launchpad X or the Launchpad Mini. So I guess I can't be sure, but I reckon. Okay, so that's how that's set up. When I make a new track, I just go to the MIDI from, which makes sense, right? Where the MIDI is coming from, and then pick the Launchpad live port. Not the MIDI port, but the live port, because the live port allows you to use like session view and all that other stuff. So for live looping, it's extremely essential, and you can still use it like this with the instrument view. So it's like the MIDI port plus the live functionality. So whether it's the drums, whether it's the synth, all you have to do is pick the Launchpad Pro live port, and then see which channel, open up all channels, see which channel's making sound. Right now it's number 10. Every time I open a new arrangement, it's different. So I don't know why it is that way. It just is that way. That's that. Delete one of those. We've found where it's coming from. It says channel 4 is working for the synth, so that's cool. We don't need to do anything there. Just turn up the volume. When I first got it, my plan was to get super good at it, so good that I can play piano arrangements on it. I use it a lot. I haven't gotten down and really mastered the fingering, but pretty good. Guitar, bass, those are coming in from the interface. I've walked you through the whole arrangement, the setup, and the basics of how I use the Launchpad Pro. There's a lot of features to the Launchpad Pro that I never used and probably never will. Thing had an angular tilt, but let's try this 110 BPM. So it makes sense to start with drums. It just tends to build a song. Guitar works too. I started the last one with bass, so I guess I shouldn't even say anything. Gotta have more soul. That's it. I don't always do it all in time. I can push stop, you know. What the heck is that? This? You can't just throw it out the window before you give it a shot, you know. Since I don't have the bass plugged in and I don't want to get up right now, I'm just gonna do this. Okay, let's pick something quick here. Okay, let's try 110 BPM and see how it goes. Let's try to do this quick. I'm taking a lot of time. Cool? Cool with that? Now I just go to session view, record arm, drum track. I'll have to come back to it. It's too creepy sounding. Let's start with the guitar. Keep it simple. Something like this. Not terrible. The problem is the guitar isn't quite quantized to That'll do for now. It's gotta be the real bass. It's not as good without it. Sounds kinda cool, but doesn't sound like real, you know? I ended up having to run out yesterday, so I'm back today, and we're just going to keep going where we were. The idea is you add more stuff, right? sing something cool, and change the drums, right? That's fine. Just something to that effect for now. Almost. That is it. You just have to, I'm sorry for stopping the loop. Stopping the loop's not cool. I shouldn't do that. You know what it sounds like? I don't know if this is gonna work.
I like the way you move. I like the way you move. I like the way you move. I like the way. I like the way. I like the way you move. I like the way you move. I like the way you move.
You just have to like have fun with it. It's funny. That's basically how you do it. Super weird, right? But you just kind of have to just go with it and try to come up with cool stuff. Sometimes you can think of like a song that it kind of sounds like, but I mean, everyone has their own way of doing cover songs. Some people like do a cover and they do it exactly how the artist does it, and that's great. That's awesome. Another way to do it is to like take the structure, like the chord structure, and then play the song with your own styling, same key, or you can even change the key, but same progressions and stuff. And then you could also completely like remix it, if you will, and change the music, but keep the lyrics. And that's kind of like where I've gone with it. It's really cool when you can just come up with something freestyle, and then you think of like, oh, this kind of sounds like that song, and then you can sing it over. I like that. Just jamming and then having some like space for vocals and being like, well, what should I sing? And you sing the thing that it kind of sounds like. That's the cherry on top, you know. When the cherry on top is when you are done with laying out the whole song, there's space for vocals, and you're like, what do I sing? And the song that it kind of sounds like comes to mind, and then you can just sing it, and it comes out like this. It's just weird, but cool. I'm happy with it. I would just keep doing this for like an hour or 2 hours, and then as much as I got, maybe there's 1 or 2, 3 good ones in there out of 10, you know. And that's basically the idea. You do 10, and you'll get 2 or 3 that you want to do again. You do them again the next week or the next day. It gets better and better and better. And so that's how I do it. That's my live looping process. It started with There it is. So that's all there is to it. And if you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll try to address them in a future video. This was just my best attempt at showing you how I do my live looping in Ableton with the Launchpad from beginning to end, so you can kind of get a rough idea. If you have any other questions, like I could have gotten more into plugins, I don't know what else, composition, mixing. I do most of my stuff in Ableton. Sometimes I mix in Logic just because I like mixing in Logic better, but it requires a lot of like exporting from here to Logic and then importing back in here, and it is what it is. That's all for today. Subscribe, like, and share with your friends, and listen to my music online everywhere. I've got On the Way coming out in 6 days, so please check it out. Just hit me up, man. Hit me up. It'd be great to hear from you on social media or here. I'm Matt P. Hit me up. Peace out.